Today we're sharing 10 tips on how to choose the right paint colors and stain colors for the exterior of your house. Whether you're building a brand new house or repainting your house, this video is for you. Painting and staining your house is a big deal. There are so many different paints and stains available, not to mention you also need to consider undertones, sunlight, and different wood types. These 10 tips will help you pick the right paint and stain for you.
The first thing to do is look at your neighbors. See what kind of style homes they have and what colors they're using.
For craftsman style homes, you'll definitely see earthier tones. Traditional homes, you'll see cooler tones with high contrasting trim. For the modern homes, we've been seeing a lot of black and whites, or some will be using grayer, cooler tones with a splash of a warmer stain.
We consider our home to be a modern mountain home, so we chose a lot of earth tones, grays, and blacks.
So once you look around at your neighbors and see what they're doing, then head to Pinterest and get some ideas for your own home. Remember, you don't have to be a cookie cutter home. This is just to get an idea, and Pinterest will give you some new inspiration. If you're repainting your house, look towards your softscape and your hardscape to see what colors you're drawn to. If you look outside and you see a lot of pea gravel, bluestone, and concrete, you're definitely drawn to the cooler tones. So consider things like blacks, cool whites, navies, anything with a cooler undertone.
I like all black.
You do like all black. That's why our house is black. Now, if you look in your backyard and you're seeing terrazzo tiles, you're seeing a lot of pottery, and you're seeing brighter green plants, you're probably drawn to the warmer colors, and you should consider the mauves, the taupes, the beiges, the grays, and keep it in the warmer family.
Beige and grays.
Beige and grays.
When picking out colors for the exterior of your home, don't just think about the front of your home. Think about the roof, the shingle colors, the fascia colors, the trim colors, the gutter colors, so many different colors. When you're doing this, try to pick 2 to 3 colors and keep it simple.
Yeah. So now that we're looking at all the materials on your house, not just the materials that need to be painted, the next step is to understand the undertone. So if you have a bright red, orangey brick, that's gonna have a warmer undertone. You're gonna wanna look for a paint that also has a warmer undertone, because something that's a little cooler is going to clash with that red brick versus complementing it. Now, rules are always meant to be broken, and it can with your red brick in a cooler color trim. Black and white and black and gray can be a good option if you're willing to take a little risk for a high reward. Now, if you're really set on changing the entire color palette of your home, you can change the color of that brick because you can paint it.
Nowadays, people definitely want that modern look with the black and white, but they still want that sturdy material of the brick, so you can get whatever color brick you want and paint it white after.
Yes.
Best of both worlds.
So in order to make sure all your colors go together, you need to make a palette. You should always create a palette using visual paint and stain swatches to make sure your paints and stains go and are cohesive together and share the same undertone. You can find our favorite paint and stain colors in our design ebook. The link's in the description, and we go into great detail into this. You can also use Pinterest to find other color combinations, or go to a Sherwin-Williams store. They'll help you out there as well.
For our house, we have stone, board and batten, and cedar shakes on the front of the house. We would have loved to continue the look of the board and batten on the side and back of the home, but due to our HOA needing to have masonry items, we ended up opting with brick so that we could fulfill the 90% of our home being masonry items. Lesson learned there, make sure you really dial in what your HOA needs, because that's going to change the style of your home and the materials that you use for it.
So altogether, this gave us 4 materials, which is a little bit more than I would recommend for someone to put on the exterior of their home. So in order to simplify our house, we decided to paint the trim and paint the board and batten the same exact color, give it a monochromatic look in order to simplify our house.
Yeah, if budget wasn't a thing and HOA wasn't a thing, the exterior of our home might have looked a little bit different.
Yeah. So our dream for our house was to have no brick on the front. This way we were able to accomplish it, and then we met in the middle by painting the trim and the board and batten the same color. Then for the cedar shakes, we decided to stain it a bare pewter color, which is a dark gray, a little bit lighter than the iron ore, but this ties together well, simplifying our home, but still adding that texture of materials. Paint and stain can be a great way to conceal an item that you don't want to draw attention to, Or on the opposite, it can be used to highlight an item you do want to pay attention to. Number 4, utilize the paint manufacturer's stores and the online resources. You can go to the big box stores like Home Depot or Menards to pick out your paint and stain, our favorite stores. Or you can go to the specific paint manufacturer store like a Sherwin-Williams store or a specific paint store. The employees are specifically trained on the paint and stains you're looking at versus at Home Depot, a person may be in the paint department, but they don't have the depth of knowledge that someone would have at these specific paint stores. Another reason I love these stores is the sample boards that they provide, especially for the stains. So they'll show the different types of stains they have, and they'll show it on different types of woods, so it's easier to go look at a sample than it would be at a Home Depot.
At a custom shop, you can almost guarantee that they'll be able to match a paint or stain. The big box stores, you might not always get exactly what you're looking for.
Sometimes they'll say yes, and sometimes they'll say no.
Online, they'll even provide some nifty tech tools where you can pick a color and display it on whatever picture you have or room that you have to give you a better feel of what it might look like in your home. Number 5, understand sunlight and undertones. All paint colors have undertones, just like skin tones. Undertones are very subtle and they may only appear under certain type of lighting conditions.
And this is especially true for grays, beiges, and whites. So if you're not sure how to find the undertone of your paint, I would take your paint book and look at the paint you're looking to use. So here we have ginger root, and then I would go on the same paint strip and go to the darkest color, which is a brown here, but it also has a pinkier mauve undertone. So that'll be the same for the ginger root color that you're looking to use.
Now comes in the factor of where your house is facing. So depending on where your house is facing, our house faces on the west. So right when it gets above around 2 o'clock, it starts really focusing very harsh light right on the face of the house. But by sunset time, it's really, really warm colors.
Yeah.
So that could be a factor of what colors you want to do. For ours in particular, on that direct sunlight, it makes our grayish stone a lot lighter, which we don't really like. We like the grayer tone.
Yeah, we do. But that's also a reason we went with an iron ore, because this is a darker color with a cooler undertone. So that kind of neutralizes that really warm, hot sun color versus whites with an undertone of a yellow might look a lot more yellow in that direct sunlight.
So if you're not in the direct sunlight, say your house faces the north or the south, then you tend to be in a shadowed light, an indirect light. And the shadowed overcast light produces a cooler tone.
Yep. So if your house faces the north or the south, you can go with a paint that has a warmer undertone in order to neutralize that light.
One other major thing to consider is not just the color temperature, but also the brightness of that light. So if you're in direct sunlight, it's gonna make things look a lot lighter. That's one issue that we have with our stone is in direct sunlight, it's a lot lighter than we'd wish it'd be. So that's something to consider as well.
Yep. So if you're looking to paint your house white, this is definitely something that you need to think about. So now we're getting into LRV, light reflective value. So this is a scale from 0% to 100%, 0% being your darkest black and 100% being your whitest, brightest white.
Teach me, Lisa.
I'm teaching you. And so the rule, the common rule, you can always break rules if you want to, is that you should never select a white with a higher LRV value than 85%, because when you look at it, it's gonna be so bright that you almost need sunglasses. So you can find the LRV value on the paint manufacturer's website, or sometimes you can find it on the paint can itself.
Bright colors for exterior doors like yellows, reds, oranges will be intensified with a bright sunlight as well. Keep that in mind.
Talking about bright colored doors leads us into our next number 7 tip: add a pop of color with paint or stain.
I want a popsicle.
Ooh, that does sound good.
Pop.
It's fun to add a pop of color in order to balance out your home and add some curb appeal. You can add some accents on your front door, some tongue and groove over your front porch, on a wood deck, or even some wood paneling on the front of your house.
Our house has a lot of cool colors, whether the blacks, the grays, the pewter gray stain, but we wanted to add a pop of color with our gables, our beams, and our front door.
Right now the guys are staining the beams over our front porch along with our front door and our wood cedar shakes. So for the beams in the front door, we went with a warmer color called Banyan Brown from Sherwin-Williams, and that was to add a little bit of contrast and warmth against our iron ore. And then we're doing a bare pewter semi-transparent color on the cedar shakes. So that's kind of in the middle so that we can still see the wood popping through on the cedar shakes, but it tones down that orangey color. Our 8th tip is to use a paint visualizer or get a rendering done of your home. We kind of already touched on the paint visualizer. Sherwin-Williams has a great one. Here you can upload a photo of your own home or use a stock home. You can choose to look at it in sunlight or at dusk. Or if you aren't satisfied with this because the programs aren't perfect, you can get a rendering done of your own home. I use SketchUp to create renderings for my own clients, but you can also pay to get this done. Once you have an idea of the paints and stains you want to try out, definitely test them out on your own home. Make sure if you're painting the sides of the house and the back of the house, test it on all different faces of your home and look at it throughout the day so you can understand how it will look in different sunlights.
Talking about testing swatches may sound like it's super boring and like, duh, of course you gotta do that, but there's a lot of factors that go into it. A couple of the main factors that go into this that you might not think of is the type of materials you're using. For us, we're using cedar shake. Each type of wood has a different undertone to it. It has different colors. So if you use the same stain on one piece of wood like cedar and then use it on a pine, those are gonna look different. Those colors are not gonna look the same, especially if you're using a semi-transparent or a transparent. Another factor to really think about is how long has that wood been exposed to the sunlight?
Yes.
In the very beginning at our house, our cedar shake was very warm. We did not like that tone.
No, we were kind of scared when we first saw it.
It was more warm than what we wanted.
Yeah.
But over time, a year had passed, that wood had aged. The sun had bleached it and went from a warm tone to a very cool tone. So when we did our swatches, we made sure that we used it on a piece of wood that had also been aged for a long period of time. If we did it on the warm tone wood that was very fresh, it would have looked a lot different than what it does now. We're very glad that it did get cooler because it's the look that we wanted.
Exactly. So Ferris kind of touched on transparent and semi-transparent, but when you go to the paint store, there are different types of stain you can buy. Transparent, semi-transparent, or solid. Transparent being almost clear, a natural look with the least amount of protection and showing the wood grain through. Semi-transparent, still showing the wood grain through, but more color. And then solid almost being like a paint and not showing any of the paint through, but provides the most protection.
So if you're using a solid stain, it may not matter which type of material you're using because it will cover a lot of that wood grain.
Yep. And for our last and final tip, the exterior of your home should match and be cohesive with the interior of your home. A great way to do that is to bring some of those exterior materials to the inside of your home, whether that's your brick, your stone, some wood, or even using the same paint and stain colors.
For our home, we use some of the exterior materials like the stone and the wood and use that on the inside for our fireplace, our wood mantle, over top of our stove.
And then we also use the same tongue and groove, the same stain throughout our cathedral ceiling on the front porch, in the living room, and on the back patio to tie it all together. I was so nervous picking out the right paint and stain colors for our house, but I'm truly loving how it turned out. And these 10 tips helped us make the right decision.
Yes, they did.
Now that you've learned these 10 tips, we hope that you can go on and find the right paint and stain colors for the exterior of your home.